solve it creatively, to be risk takers, to be idea generators? Or is this for the entire population of students at the university? In 2004, there was an assembly of artists, educators, community leaders at Columbia University in New York City. This was the continuation of a tradition that was established by Dwight D. Eisenhower, the American Assembly. And at this particular meeting, they were looking at specifically the role of creativity at the universities and the role of the performing arts, or the role of the arts to influence creativity, not just within the context of the fine arts major, but across disciplines. What is it that the colleges of the arts could do to impact the experience of learning and behaving, thinking? And they concluded that creativity was not a product of personality. How many times have you heard someone just immediately say, well, I'm not creative? And is that a result of just their concept of creativity? Or is creativity something that is teachable? Is it about competencies? How you approach life that imbue and fosters a sense of creativity? The American economy is increasingly based on creativity, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir now, that most business enterprises are now looking for people who not only know the subject matter, but have the ability to creatively apply that subject matter depending on what the situation is. And so the American enterprise is now looking for individuals who have a high concept skill set. We're finding that the students who come to the university, today's students who come to the university, they come to that setting with creative experience as a norm, not an exception. So the iPads and the smartphones and all the apparatus that we now have ubiquitously filtered throughout all of our lives, they grew up with I'm sure you've heard this term, that they are natives in terms of technology. They just grow up learning. My 3-year-old grandson, has no inhibitions in terms of interacting with his iPad that his parents gave him, as opposed to his grandfather, who's still having problems. Like, my secretary put this together for me because I'm an immigrant in terms of technology. Students come to the university today already engaged in creative activity. They're making their own movies. They're writing their own songs, even those who didn't formally study. They have no fear about anything they want to do. They aggressively go after it and to learn it. Thus, the arts develop ways of knowing. There are different approaches to problem solving. And the arts give you the access or the ability to know different ways of knowing, of creating, and consequently of being innovative. And therefore that becomes the focus in today's world for business, for the economy, and for the public good. There are several national initiatives ongoing right now that has to do with fostering creativity. One is the Doris Duke Innovation Grant. That grant provided $3.5 million for 14 universities to be able to be engaged in activities to foster creativity. There is a new organization at the University of Michigan called the Alliance for the Arts and Research University, or the acronym is A2REU. And the purpose of this organization is to work with research universities to integrate into the fabric of the curriculum arts and design practices, no matter what the discipline is. Another organization is Design for America, understanding how to think as a designer, not necessarily be a designer, but understand design construct and how to approach problem solving within that framework. The Strategic National Arts Alumni Project, better known as SNAP. This is an organization that collects data from graduates of arts programs across the nation to ascertain, one, are you working in the arts? Or if you're not working in the arts, did your arts education serve your current position? And what they're finding over and over again and I'll show it to you in a slide in a second, but what they're finding over and over again is that the majority of the students or alumni who are responding, who are not making their living absolutely in the arts, but in a disparate discipline or area, say, absolutely, studying the arts contribute to my success, even though I'm not doing art full time. Two more organizations would be the Beyond the Creative Campus research that's taking place in the UK, and lastly, the Creative Pacemaking courses. At the core of all of this is skill sets, and the core creative skills like reasoning by analogy, making non-routine connections, and identifying patterns that are related to the same area of the brain that is activated when people are engaged in the visual and performing arts. I have a question. How many of you play an instrument? How many of you play the piano? How many of you are engaged in any arts activity? What we're finding out is that playing, in this particular case, playing an instrument improves your brain power, how you see the world. So what are the brain benefits? It creates faster and more diverse pathways. In other words, different ways to approach life, different ways to approach a problem or a situation. Higher level of executive function, like planning, strategy, detail, emotional intelligence. I often think about my own career paths in that when I was studying voice, I started off as a piano major and then went to voice and then conducting. I had no idea I would be here standing and having this conversation with you. But through the process of my commitment to my art form, there were many residual benefits that came along with the study of the arts. And this highlights some of them. Last but not least, it enhances your memory. The next chart I want to show you shows you that they went to 235 innovators, people who were considered to be innovators. And they asked them, would you recommend arts training for students who are in the STEM disciplines? Of that, over 80 of them said, yes, certainly. Little more than 10 said maybe, and less than 10 said no. And why do you think that is true? we have found out that Nobel laureates, there are 4 times likely to have been a musician, or 17 times more likely to have been a visual artist, 22 times more likely to have been a performer, and 25 times more likely to have been a writer. So any laureates in the room? We also have found out that science majors make an average of $66,000 a year, but if they have had exposure to the arts, they are more likely to have a higher income level. And this was this quote was offered by the former president of Georgia Tech, who says people who play instruments make better engineers. And this is his words. Here are the benefits, creative practice, the skill sets to consider yourself a creative person. Cross-disciplinary collaboration, being able to talk to people unlike your kind, risk-taking, or being able to improvise, tolerance of ambiguity. Sometimes you just don't know the answer. Oftentimes, when you don't know the answer and recognize that, then that can oftentimes lead to a creative solution. Empathetic reasoning, thinking with analogies and metaphors. And so therefore, in the 21st century, here are what I consider to be the competencies everybody needs in order to be really able to contribute to the problems and to the situations we are facing in the 21st century. So, creativity is the core value for the rising generation. 84%, as I said earlier, of the students that we are encountering now think creativity is important or a very important skill to learn in college. 92 say that a career that allows them to be creative is quite important. Consequently, employees are demanding over and over again that we want someone not only to be grounded in their discipline, but have the ability to think out of, as we say, out of the box. Think outside the boundaries of the discipline, approaching it through metaphors, through pulling in information from all sorts of mechanisms in order to make the very best decision. So the question is, the arts in a research university is as ridiculous as a question as biology in a research university. 34% of arts graduates are currently working outside of their discipline in the arts. Approximately 90 of them have done so at some point in their career. And here is a printout of the percentage of graduates who are in non-arts related fields. Majority of them out of design, the theater, dance, then music, and then film and media. Fine and studio arts. So I wanted to end my talk about highlighting for you some of the things that are going on at the U within this context. One, the A2RU. I talked to you before, the Alliance for connecting or integrating art and design within disciplines across the university. At the University of Utah, that's called Create Connects. That involves the entrepreneurial faculty, scholars, the Lausanne Entrepreneur Institute, and I'm sure you've heard of that. That's a nationally recognized hub of creativity across disciplines, where students from all disciplines, including the arts, will live together and work together on startup projects, which is quite revolutionary. The Spark Design Institute, again, is to foster a multidisciplinary approach to understanding the creative design practices and processes both on campus and in the community. And then Utah Presents is the result of what was Kingsbury Hall Presents, we now call Utah Presents. And one example of mixing, last year, Utah Presents brought a one-man play to the School of Medicine called Mercy Killers, dealing with the issues of euthanasia, thank you. And with the medical students being in the room, a special performance for them, and then had a lecture opportunity the next day that was really quite impactful. Within the College of Fine Arts, we are finding that we are engaged in creating a Center for Art, Culture, and Health. So we are looking at fostering a new direction within the College of Fine Arts that will connect the graduates and faculty who are interested in research and outreach in areas of health, healthcare with the arts. And so we are trying to open up opportunities of creativity, not only across the campus, but also in the College of Fine Arts. This has been a pleasure just to try to share with you what is happening at universities, not only in Salt Lake City, but across the country. These are conversations that will be continuing, trying to raise and heighten the understanding of the importance of creativity and the effect of creativity on all our lives, and the pathway to understanding creativity most readily would be ways of the arts and design. I was to be done by 1:29. It is 1:27.
I'm sure Raymond would be glad to stay after a little bit for